My name's Rowan Huxtable. I'm a Wollongong resident. I've lived here since 1995, and I'm here today with Claudia Beltrame and Greg Knight, and we're going to talk to you about community efforts to lobby Wollongong Council and trying to get them to take strong action about climate change. So I'm just going to give a bit of history and context first, and then Claudia is going to talk a bit about relationships. Then Greg's going to talk about some of his experiences and conclusions, and then I'm just going to end up with a couple of thoughts. So I'll just put on a slideshow now. So this slide is about it's a potted history of Wollongong. As you can see from the slide, before 2008, the council was a pro-development council. There was a lot of funny business went on. There was ICAC inquiry, so there wasn't actually a council until 2011. Then a decent sort of council was elected, but still in October 2015, there still hadn't been a real lot of progress about climate change. There was a Greens motion for emission reduction targets that was defeated. But then in the last few years, there have been some terrific steps forward. The council's declared a climate emergency. There's a zero emissions target. The council's joined the Cities Power Partnership, and there's a mitigation plan now. Oops, let's go back. Yeah, so in that time, well, really all the way back to about 2007, there's been a fantastic amount of community activity by a diverse range of people and a diverse range of activities. And there's been groups of students like AYCC. There's been people looking at the water aspects. There's been work done by university people. There have been various community groups, and there's been all sorts of different actions, rallies and demonstrations, speaking directly to councillors, a wide range of things. So as a result of that, now we've got our Wollongong Council targets, which are really good, but when you look at the other targets that other councils have around Australia, you can see here on this table that Wollongong Council targets are good, but they're by no means leading edge. What we've been able to do with Wollongong is to point out a real lot of precedents from other councils. And also, this work that's going on is in the context of some very strengthened state government targets compared to 10 years ago. If you look at the targets here from all those state governments, they're really 10 years ago would never have dared to dream that all the state governments would have targets like this. So this has set a context for asking Wollongong Council to take strong action. So now I'm just going to ask Claudia to talk about relationships.
Thanks for having me. So my name is Claudia Perry-Beltrame, and I've been with CCL since about May 2020, so not very long. And Rowan, as our leader in this electorate, he has kind of dropped me in the deep end with getting straight into writing submissions for council. So when we look at relationships, CCL actually has a value that focuses on relationships. And CCL also has a process on how to establish relationships as part of the lobbying process with federal MPs. Obviously, the federal MPs are our main focus. So this information I'm providing here is in addition to that, and it's focusing more on the experience in working with local councillors. And I feel there's probably some overlap, but I also find that there's some additional things here that I can mention. So when you set up a meeting or before a meeting, think about the kind of relationship you like to have with your representative partners or your meeting partners in general, because obviously for us it also meant working with the partners and with the other organizations that we were dealing with. Consider that they are people first, so they have their own interests, their own values, and in general they like to be treated as people. I have seen many people dealing with councillors from a perspective of demand, and that's not how CCL deals with people. So we focus on respect and showing appreciation, and I also like to bring in the focus on mutuality in a conversation. So mutuality for me is when you ask for things and you give things of value to the councils as well. So it's a give and take process. When you don't know a councillor, I guess the fastest way to build a relationship with them is working through your network. So if you know someone who knows someone who knows someone else who knows a councillor or two, get in touch with them. So use your network to work through to get to someone who knows the councillors, and then work with them and see what kind of relationship they have with them, because obviously they need to have a good relationship. So you can have a good relationship with them as well. And then from that person, you can either seek a referral or you ask them to come along and meet with them. What happened in my situation was that I had already known councillors for quite some time through my business relationships. So when I was going to business networks in this region, I had met quite a few, and I have worked with some of them at the University of Wollongong. So I already had established that relationship a few years back. So when you're at the meeting, listen to what the councillors have to say and show an interest in what they say. And you can do that by asking open questions. So what we have tried to do in our meetings was to actually find common ground with the councillors. And we had, for example, a climate skeptic that we met with, and he just mentioned in the conversation that he'd like to leave a better world for his kids. And that was exactly the point that we could find common ground on, because we are about the livable world, and that's equivalent to his better world, even if we have slightly different ways of meaning around what a better world is and how we go about making it. So, but because we had that common ground, we also found that there was buy-in for the ideas that, for example, Rowan had for him, and we had a really good conversation around what we wanted to achieve. The last thing about the mutuality part is you can always ask how you can support them. Councillors are not really used to this aspect. They often get more demands than actual support. So I'll talk a little bit about that later on. So the story about council and our submission process was, Rowan showed you all the different organisations that have worked on this for over the past few years, and we had about 7 local climate and environmentally focused organisations that we worked together on the submission process. And I would say that it was a cooperative, not a collaboration as such. We had someone who was driving the process from a different group, and they collated a lot of the information that was relevant in moving our region forward. And these issues that they highlighted became common target and common asks that we could ask the councils for to approve in their delivery program that we were writing the submission for. And it was great because you could have a targeted approach on a select few solutions that were really tried and tested, as Rowan mentioned before. So because these issues were already tried and tested, we had examples we could provide council as a reference point. And the few solutions, so instead of many solutions, we looked at few solutions, and that gave us more impact with the submission. So we're going to be using the same approach for the climate mitigation plan as well, and I hope we have as much success in submitting submissions as we've had with the delivery program. So we had about 64 submissions going in for that program, which was unprecedented, and they were all relating to climate change. So when we write a submission, we made sure that people still could provide their own approach to it. So it was still unique, and it was in their voice that it was written. So the information was not prescriptive, and that was really good too, because I'm a change practitioner and I could bring in that change focus that needed to come with sustainability initiatives. And I also work with culture, and I could talk about how culture changes and how the organization needs to focus more on the internal culture change as well as, you know, driving the submissions process, the sustainability through the community. We then arranged for small groups of people to meet with councillors and to talk about the submission. And again, what we did is, using the relationship aspect, we asked people who knew councils to arrange the meetings and to be the liaison. And in this regard, I set up 3 meetings with councillors and the Lord Mayor because I already had those established relationships. And what it means is it gets you faster access to the councillors. Just a note on technology, just make sure your councillors are familiar with and use the online conferencing technology because we had some issues that caused delays. Because it wasn't actually working for them. So just make sure that that's working for both parties. So during the meeting, we did actually ask the councillors how we could support them better, because ultimately they can do things when they have the back of the broader community and they know that they are being supported by, you know, with what they are doing. So what they suggested to us is that we should continue writing letters to the media and that we should participate in radio interviews and build the business case for change. And they also recommended that it's good to show multiple perspectives. So not just have an environmental focus, but explain why a business should buy into that perspective. Why should a business buy into sustainability initiatives? And this way, the information simply has broader appeal than just people who are interested in the environment. And we should also take part in the public access forums. So that was one of the things that I did, as I spoke for 5 minutes at the council meeting in making the case for the delivery program and make sure that it's approved. And that way, again, councillors knew that they had the back of the community because this is a public recorded forum that the community can listen to. And lastly, the third suggestion was that we actually celebrate the councils when they take courageous actions. And that is probably something we don't really do very well because we don't really have access to councils in that way. So finding ways of doing that, whether that is through the media or through social media, is a great way to support councils too, because ultimately if we give them our back, we have theirs, and that's part of a mutual relationship. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass on to Greg now.
Thank you, and thanks for listening to us today. I'm not a professed expert in dealing with councillors, but I'm a technologist, and I'll just tell you the story that we have been going down for the last 6 months. So the first thing we did was on the council passed the zero net emissions by 2050 target. They had that up on for a council meeting. So the councillors' problem was that they needed to get that passed, that agreed by the rest of the council. So what did we do? So they had a problem. What did we do? We built a 50-page submission to the council plan, and perhaps you can see it here. A lot of words in there. What it really did was get us some credibility, getting us through the door. We launched the 50-page plan with the radio interview, so now we're getting some attention. On the night of the council meeting, I went and spoke at the public gallery section of the council meeting for 5 minutes on the importance of getting that target passed. And there were supporters in the gallery at the time. And they did. The council passed it. They had 4 dissenting speakers, and then they passed it unanimously, amazingly enough. So, okay, what's the next problem? The target was accepted and the plan is being built, but what's the best action to take? So what should be included in the plan? So we went away and developed a proposal. The 2 best actions are the PPA and community batteries. So they're the largest impact on greenhouse emissions with the least effort by the council. Not showing that they're lazy, we're just trying to get the best payback for effort. We fully researched those proposals and costed them and made an integrated solution that would work for the council rather than just do this. So do this in this way and it should work. So at that time they were writing the climate change mitigation plan, and it is starting to be finalised. We wanted to get these proposals included, so the councillors, so I'd been meeting with the councillors once a fortnight, just for half an hour, talking about getting this through. The councillors went and visited the planning staff within the council building and talked to them about these solutions, and we put up a public proposal on the website and we publicised it, and lo and behold, when the council plan came out for review, it had the PPA, which was suggested, included in that plan. So now the plan is on review. We need to make sure we got the complete proposals into the plan. So this community battery one is a new concept. So we booked a meeting with the Lord Mayor, just wrote him a letter, said, can I talk to you for 15 or 20 minutes about this? I was contacted by his executive assistant. He decided that I was worth talking to and it was worth the Mayor's time. So we had a Zoom meeting for about 15 minutes with him, on which he agreed that they would look at it if we made a proper submission in this public review. Reviewed the plan and quantified the performance. So how much difference would it make? We're going to make multiple submissions suggesting that they follow these 2 proposals, the PPA and the community batteries. So this is over a 6 months period, and we just did a series of what was the problem, what did we do about it? What's the next problem, what did we do about it? So just worked along with what the councillors needed next. So what are the takeaways? What would I do next time? Find out what the councillor's problem is and solve it. And you can ask them. They don't always know and they can't explain it properly, but you get a good feel from just talking to them what their senses are. And sometimes they're too courteous to ask for us to do it. So figure out what the problem is, go and solve it. Do a lot of homework, fully research the solution, design it so that it integrates within their system. So we've made these proposals and then we're going to get them integrated into the climate change plan. We took a lot of advice from the councillors on how to do it. So for the example, I said, let's not run this out the flagpole. It'll get shot at and we won't have another chance at it. So we didn't do that. We've just been easing it in and that's working quite well. We used events to find a leverage point. So on the previous slide, there was things happening within the council meeting or they were implementing plans or whatever. When they do that, that's the time to go, now we've got this suggestion. So use those events to be able to start a conversation. And then use your marketing tools. What's the issue? What's the solution? Why it will work and how it will be implemented. So that's my story. It's working for us pretty well so far, and we've got, we think it'll slide into their plans quite well and be well considered. Thanks very much.
I'd just like to finish up now with just a couple of general thoughts about what's worked over the years. The first thing is that it's very hard to say that there's any particular moment of conversion or any particular activity that's given a sudden breakthrough. We don't have any objective data about what things change people's minds. So I think a lot of this is speculation. One thing that has changed, I think, between 2007 and 2020 is that the reality of climate change is actually getting harder and harder to deny. And there's that general backdrop of strengthening activity from businesses, from governments, and from other councils that it's so much stronger than 10 years ago, and that must be a factor on the behaviour of councils and businesses. The next thing about Wollongong is that, as I was saying, there has been this fantastic diversity of approach, and all sorts of different people taking different sort of actions over many years, and one feature of this campaign has just been persistence and just keeping going and keeping going and keeping trying. So that's a factor. With that diversity of approach and diversity of people, it gives a few advantages. There's the first thing is it gives you moral support. You get moral and technical support by being able to cooperate and network. And the thing about a diverse lot of groups of people is that different messages appeal to different sorts of people. So a large range of different people involved in the process with their own perspectives, that gives you the best chance of attracting a wider range of interest in the community. And the final point is about elected representatives. In Wollongong Council, there are 2 Greens. There's a very sympathetic Labor independent. So that immediately gives us 3 votes. And so to get the rest of the cart over the line, you only have to round up another 3 or 4. That's way better than if there are no elected sympathetic representatives. So it's really good to lobby the elected representatives, but it's also really good to put a lot of effort into making sure that the right representatives get elected in the first place. So that's all that we've got to say today. But if anybody's got any questions or thoughts, we'd be very happy to hear from you. And all the best with your own campaigning actions.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our CCL channel by hitting the button in the top left-hand corner of this screen. Spread the word of CCL by using the share icon to as many of your contacts as possible. Thank you. See you next video.